Ever had someone swipe something from you right under your nose? Not cash, not snacks, but pure electricity. That's what I was grappling with. Every night my setup was acting weird. Power draining like a vampire was latched onto the line. At first I figured it was a glitch. Maybe a faulty battery cell. Maybe my inverter was on its last legs. But nope, what I uncovered later had me fuming. It wasn't a glitch, it was straight-up theft. Someone was plugging their fancy Tesla into my solar grid, jacking up my bills, sapping my backup juice, and thinking I'd never catch on. But here's the kicker that makes it worse. It wasn't just some random neighbor creeping around at night. It was the HOA enforcer, Raj, the same dude who swaggered around the block in his wannabe tactical vest, barking orders with zero authority, enforcing rules nobody ever agreed to. Yet before we dive deeper, drop a comment with your country. Let's see how far this tale spreads. The signs were sneaky at first. My lights would flicker, the battery bank was draining way too fast, and my monthly bill, it was creeping up when it should have been dropping. And I installed those solar panels myself, wired the whole system, and knew every single amp that should flow in and out. So when the numbers didn't add up, I got curious. I decided to play detective. One night, I peeked through the blinds, coffee in hand, just waiting. Hours ticked by. Then, just past midnight, a shadow slunk across my driveway. And there he was, Raj, the HOA guy. Not in a patrol car, not jotting notes, but dragging a chunky orange Tesla charging cable behind him. He strolled up to my outlet like he owned the joint, plugged in, and leaned back on his glossy car as my power poured into his battery. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just a neighbor being cheap. This was a guy abusing his fake clout, treating my setup like his personal charging station. And I wasn't about to let that slide. Next morning, I caught him in broad daylight. He was strutting down the street in that vest labeled HOA Enforcer like it gave him superpowers. I marched right up and said, "Yo, Raj, I saw you juicing your Tesla off my grid last night. You're stealing my power." He didn't even blink. Just smirked, slid his sunglasses down, and said, "Community rules allow emergency charging. I'm cleared to tap into shared resources." I nearly cracked up. Shared resources? My solar array was my blood, sweat, and cash. It wasn't a public outlet. And there's no way a fake HOA enforcer title gave him the right to leech my electricity. But he kept at it. Night after night, I caught him sneaking back. Sometimes he'd park his Tesla just far enough down the driveway, thinking I wouldn't notice. Other times he was brazen, standing there like a king, daring me to call him out. He was sucking down kilowatts, and every morning, my system showed the loss. And that's when I decided enough was enough. No more arguing. No more begging. I was going to teach him a lesson he'd never forget. And if you're digging this HOA drama so far, hit that like button and subscribe. The story's about to get wild. I started by ringing up the county energy office. They backed up what I suspected. Under property and utility law, nobody could hook into my system without my say-so. It was theft of services, same as siphoning gas or pirating cable. That was the green light I needed. So I got to work on my gear. My inverter system had a voltage adjustment feature, something most folks never mess with. It's usually set to pump out steady power, safe for appliances, safe for cars. But I could nudge it just enough so an unauthorized plug-in, without proper grounding, would get a nasty surge. Nothing deadly, nothing illegal, just enough to zap some electronics if they weren't shielded. And I set up a hidden camera aimed at the outlet, just in case he tried to play dumb later. Then I kicked back, waiting for him to take the bait. Sure enough, the next night headlights lit up my blinds. The Tesla rolled in, smooth and silent. Raj hopped out, plugged into my outlet like it was his God-given right, and leaned on his hood as the power flowed. What he didn't know? He was about to get a shock. And I sat on my porch, lights off, coffee in hand, watching it all go down like a midnight blockbuster. Raj thought he was slick, standing there all puffed up while his Tesla quietly drained my grid. At first, everything seemed normal. The charging light blinked steady. The screen glowed blue. But then my trap kicked in. A faint hum started, barely audible. Within seconds, the Tesla's charging port sparked. The blue light flipped to a furious red. Raj frowned, leaned down to check, and then pop. A white flash shot out, followed by a loud crackle. The car's alarm went nuts, screaming into the quiet night. "What the hell?" he shouted, stumbling back. I couldn't help it. I laughed loud enough for him to hear. He whipped around, eyes blazing. "You did this. You rigged it." I stood up, cool as a cucumber. "Nah, I just protected what's mine. You've been stealing power for weeks. Now you're paying for it." He stomped toward me, fists clenched. "I'll have you arrested. You can't mess with an HOA enforcer." That line almost broke me. I chuckled and pulled out my phone. "First off, you're not a real cop. Second, you just admitted to stealing utilities on camera." I tilted my phone so he could see the little red recording light. His face went ghost white, but instead of backing off, he doubled down. He yanked out his phone and called Priya, the HOA president. 10 minutes later, she rolled up in her SUV, stepping out like she owned the whole neighborhood. "This is harassment," she yelled the second her heels hit my driveway. "You can't tamper with a member's vehicle." He was on official HOA business. Official business? I raised an eyebrow. "You mean plugging his car into my private solar grid?" Priya crossed her arms, her voice oozing smugness. "The HOA has rights to community resources. That includes your property if we say so." The sheer nonsense of it almost made me lose it. I nearly threw a pie in their faces. Almost. Instead, I pulled out my second phone, the one I'd used to call the sheriff's department the moment the Tesla's alarm went off. Right on cue, 2 squad cars pulled up, red and blue lights flashing across the yard. The real deputies stepped out, hands on their belts. "We got a report of theft of services and trespassing." "Who's the homeowner?" I raised my hand. "That'd be me." Raj started pointing fingers. "He sabotaged my car. He's the criminal." Priya jumped in all shrill and panicked. "Yes, arrest him now." But the deputies weren't having it. I showed them the footage. Crystal clear video of Raj plugging in, draining my power, and the surge hitting. The deputies watched, nodding. "Looks like theft of utilities," one said. "And trespassing, since he entered your property without permission." Priya tried to butt in, but the deputy cut her off cold. "Ma'am, HOA rules don't trump state law or property rights." By the end of the day, Raj was cited for theft of services and trespassing. Priya, who'd backed him up, got slapped with an obstruction charge for meddling. As the deputies hauled them away, the Tesla sat dead in my driveway, its battery fried to a crisp. But the real fireworks came later. I filed a civil lawsuit against Raj for theft of services, tallying every kilowatt he'd swiped. The court hit him with over $50,000 in damages, enough to replace my system twice over. Priya, humiliated and broke, got booted off the HOA board and had to sell her house at a loss. The fallout kept rolling. The HOA itself got investigated, lost its charter, and was shut down for good. As for me, my lights stayed on, my solar grid was mine again, and peace finally settled over the neighborhood. I took one last sip of coffee, grinned at the fading police lights, and thought, this is what happens when HOA bullies forget who really holds the power. So, what do you think, folks? Did Raj get what he deserved, or was I too harsh for dragging the whole HOA down with him? Drop your thoughts below. I'm dying to hear where you stand.